Bartholomew Kuma's story is not about heroism, not in the traditional sense. It is not about power or glory or even freedom. It's about suffering, quiet, relentless suffering, and the act of enduring it alone, not for oneself but for others. Kuma's life is a monument to sacrifice, a cathedral built brick by brick with the bones of pain and the mortar of unshakable resolve. In the world of One Piece, which thrives on grand adventures, flamboyant pirates, and revolution, Kuma is a silent contradiction. A man who chose the slow death of silence over the fury of vengeance. To understand Kuma is to understand the shadow cast by the sun. And at the heart of that sun is a figure spoken of in whispers and legends, the sun god Nika, the bringer of joy, the breaker of chains. In many ways, Kuma is Nika's shadow, absorbing all the pain so others could feel warmth. But shadows tell their own stories. And Kuma's story is not one of victory, it is one of faith. But to understand this faith, we must first understand the machine he was crushed under. The word government does not merely exploit power, it ritualizes it. Their violence is not just political, it is sacred, systemic, and enforced by myth. It is religion focused on greed and hate. Kuma, born a buccaneer, was not only born into oppression, he was born into a legacy of punishment for a sin he never committed. His very bloodline was criminalized. His people hunted and enslaved were made scapegoats for a transgression no longer remembered, only repeated. That is the cycle Kuma was born into. He watched his father beg for dignity. He watched his mother die in chains. He saw what hope looks like when it's mocked by power. A boy offered up as prey in the celestial dragon's hunting competition. A human turned into game. A boy forced to watch the death of his father and have the stain of his blood on his face. And in this hell where gods dying and suffering, Kuma heard a name. Nika. A god of liberation, the sun god, a smile in the dark, a dance in the fire. A myth whispered between sobs and broken bones. Club told Kuma stories of Nika not just to entertain him, but to keep his soul from shattering. Where reason fails, mythology endures. Club couldn't protect Kuma with his fists, so he shielded him with stories. And stories in the world of One Piece are not just fiction. They are future memories waiting to be lived. After escaping God Valley with Genie and Ivankov, Kuma didn't immediately seek revenge or revolution. He chose the Sorbet Kingdom, a small, quiet place, because what he truly wanted wasn't vengeance, it was peace, rest. But peace under tyranny is always fragile. King Bekori decided the orderly were no longer useful. He cast them out like broken tools. But Kuma stood in the way, because he knew suffering. He understood what it meant to be discarded, and more importantly, because he could take their pain. Kuma's devil fruit, the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi, doesn't just push people away. It transfers trauma. It makes Kuma a vessel for the agony of others. When he saved people, he quite literally felt their wounds. And he did it silently. That is the purest image of liberation. But this act cost him. Over time, it really cost him everything. When Dragon and Ivankov returned to overthrow Bekori, Kuma joined the revolutionary army not because he wanted power, but because he wanted to preserve peace. He joined to protect the weak from men like Bekori, and men like the Celestial Dragons. Genie rose through the ranks, and so did Kuma. But when she was kidnapped and forced to bear Celestial Dragon's child, the revolution became personal. Genie was broken, infected with a sapphire scale disease, and discarded like trash. Kuma didn't hesitate when she contacted him. He used his power to reach her, only to find her body already cold. What was left was a baby, Jewelry Bonney, the only piece of Genie the world didn't destroy. At this point, Kuma could have burnt the world. He could have let hatred define him, but instead he turned away from war. He turned away from the revolution. He became a father. And that's what breaks the heart. Kuma isn't just strong. He isn't just selfless. He is relentlessly compassionate. And in the world Oda has created, a world where love is rare, Kuma's gentleness is his rebellion. Bonney's sickness echoed genius. The sapphire scale disease threatened to take her before her 10th birthday. Kuma's options ran out. He turned to the only man who could save her, Dr. Vegapunk. And Vegapunk of course agreed, but Saturn intervened as the one in charge, and in traditional Celestial Dragon fashion, he set 3 conditions. Kuma must join the Shichibukai, he must become a weapon for the Marines, he must surrender his free will, his entire personality, to the world government. And a final cruelty: he will never see Bonney again. This is the point where most men would break. But Kuma did not hesitate, because to him the equation is simple. If my life can save hers, it is already spent. The tragedy is not that Kuma agrees to the deal. The tragedy is that he's happy to, because he doesn't believe his own life has any worth, only the lives of those he loves. In doing so, he sacrificed not just his body, but his identity, his memory, his humanity. But here's where the myth of Nika burns brightest. Even when he forgets who he is, his body still remembers how to save. That's the brilliance of Oda storytelling. The idea of Nika isn't just about power. It's about freedom through joy, a joy that resists domination. Luffy, like Kuma, bears pain for others. To Kuma, Luffy is the promise of a world where men like him no longer have to suffer in silence. A world where children aren't born in chains. Where joy is not a crime. Where no one is forgotten. By the time Kuma begins climbing the red line, he is nothing but scar tissue. Physical and spiritual. No mind, no voice, no recognition of self. Only a soul driven by instinct. It is the purest form of devotion. No longer bound by rationality or identity, he moves forward. Even as the world government tries to bury his past, even as Bonney cries for a father she no longer recognizes, Kuma the human weapon refuses to stay where he's placed. He climbs the red line, the highest symbol of oppression in the One Piece world, with bare hands. No speech, no flash, no powers, just determination, just love, just memory. He's not fighting for the revolution anymore. He's not fighting to win. He's fighting to be seen, to reclaim a piece of his humanity, to hold his daughter. And in this act, I believe he truly fulfills the legend of Nika more fully than any Devil Fruit Awakening ever could. Because Nika isn't just about breaking chains. During the Marineford War, as the world trembled at the brink of chaos, Don Quixote do Flamingo uttered one of the most brutal truths in One Piece. Those who stand at the top determine what's wrong and what's right. This very place is neutral ground. Justice will prevail, you say. But of course it will. Whoever wins this war becomes justice. Children who have never seen war and children who have only seen war have different values. This isn't just a villain's rant. This is a confession, a mirror. And for someone like Kuma, it resonates with devastating clarity. Kuma was born into war. Not one declared openly, but one imposed quietly by history. A war against his people. A war against suffering. A war against being forgotten. He was not given the luxury of childhood dreams. He was given chains. And every choice he made, every sacrifice, was shaped by a reality that kids born in peace can't begin to understand. Ginny's kidnapping, the Sapphire Scale disease, his mother's death, his father's undignified death, the Celestial Dragons treating Bonney like property, the elderly being cast out of the Sorbet Kingdom, the attempted capture of Shirahoshi, Boa Hancock and her sisters being subjected to cruelty, Whitebeard's sad childhood. These aren't just narrative events. They are the brutal consequences of a world that calls itself peaceful while sustaining itself on invisible wars. A world where adults continuously fail children. Doflamingo's words aren't false because he's a villain. They're true because he is a product of that same system. But unlike Kuma, Doflamingo surrendered to it. He used the cruelty inherited to fuel his own. Kuma transcended it. Where Doflamingo sees 2 types of people, Kuma imagines a third. Those who transform the world so that no child has to be born into war again. That's the world Nika promises. A world where inherited pain isn't passed down like a curse, but burnt away by compassion. And this is what makes Kuma's journey so tragic and so godlike. He is not angry, he is not corrupted, he bears the values of a child born in war but does not pass them on. Instead, he protects those born in peace. Luffy, Bonney, so that they may grow into liberators, not prisoners of the past. What is liberation? Is it the defeat of an empire, the overthrow of gods? Or is it the quiet strength of a man who never let the world teach him to hate? Kuma's body is broken, his name erased, his legacy hidden beneath the lies of the celestial dragons that he was a tyrant and a violent man. But the truth lives on. In Bonney, who now fights to restore his name. In Luffy, who laughs and dreams as the sun god himself. Even in death, Kuma protects. Even without memory, he chooses love. He may never dance like Nika again, but in a world like One Piece, what could be more divine than a man who made others smile by carrying their pain? Kuma's life is a prayer, and his body is the altar where the lie of justice is finally burnt away.